Imagine this. The blazing Egyptian sun falls over the great palace of Thebes. Inside, far from the eyes of the people, stood the harem of the pharaoh, a kingdom within a kingdom, built not of stone, but of desire, fear, and control. The word harem comes from a root meaning forbidden, and that's exactly what it was, a forbidden empire of women. Ruled by one man whose word was law, whose desire was divine. Stay with me till the end, because today we're diving into one of the most closely guarded secrets in history, a world hidden behind gold walls, perfumed air, and silenced lips. The pharaoh's harem, a place that was never meant to be spoken of. Welcome to Throne of Scandals, where history's darkest truths rise from the sand. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more untold stories they never taught you in school. But this wasn't just about pleasure. Pharaoh's harem was political, religious, and dangerous. It was where alliances were forged, heirs were born, and secrets could end dynasties. Every woman inside had a story. Some arrived as foreign princesses, gifts from rival kings, symbols of peace. Others were chosen from noble Egyptian families, selected for their beauty, grace, or intelligence. And some were simply slaves, girls who caught the pharaoh's eye during ceremonies or festivals. Once chosen, they vanished from the outside world, living in a luxurious golden cage that few ever escaped. The harem was a city of women. It had its own guards, servants, cooks, musicians, and priests. The women were dressed in linen so fine it was almost transparent, perfumed with oils brought from Nubia in the east. Their days were filled with music, dance, and ritual baths. But make no mistake, behind all that beauty was control. The pharaoh's desire was law, and his harem existed to satisfy both his body and his dynasty's future. Each night, the pharaoh could summon any woman he pleased. But not all encounters were about passion. Many were about politics. A single night with the pharaoh could elevate a woman to power or seal her doom. Those who bore sons might rise to the rank of great royal wife, the highest title a woman could hold. But in this golden prison, jealousy was as deadly as any blade. Whispers spread like sandstorms. The women competed not just for affection, but for survival. Some resorted to charms, love potions, and ancient rituals. Incense would burn, chants would fill the chambers, and symbols were drawn to bind passion and power. But the harem wasn't just filled with women. It was guarded by eunuchs, men who had been castrated to ensure purity inside the pharaoh's sacred domain. They were loyal, silent, and feared. No man, other than the pharaoh, was allowed beyond those doors. And yet, history tells us, some broke that rule. One of the most shocking scandals in Egyptian history erupted during the reign of Ramesses III, a conspiracy born inside his own harem. The so-called harem conspiracy wasn't about love, it was about power. A lesser wife, Ty, wanted her son to become pharaoh. But to do that, Ramesses had to die. Inside the harem's walls, whispers turned to plans. Servants, guards, and even priests were bribed. Letters were smuggled out. Magic spells were cast to curse the pharaoh and weaken him before the strike. When the plot was finally uncovered, it sent shockwaves through Egypt. Trials were held in secret. The conspirators were executed or forced to take their own lives. Some accounts say Ramesses himself was already dead, murdered by his own wives and servants. The papyrus that recorded the trial still exists today, stored in a museum in Turin, Italy. It's one of the few surviving records that tells us what really happened inside the Egyptian harem, not love stories, blood and betrayal. And yet, even after that scandal, the harems continued to thrive. For centuries, they remained the pharaoh's private sanctuaries, part pleasure palace, part political machine. The great royal wife might rule over the women, but every corner of the harem carried secrets. The atmosphere was thick with perfume and paranoia. Spies listened through thin walls. Rivalries simmered like the desert heat. Some scholars believe the harems were also centers of ritual sexuality, where acts of union symbolized divine renewal. The pharaoh, seen as the living Horus, was expected to maintain cosmic balance through fertility and strength. Every year, ceremonies were held where the pharaoh would symbolically unite with the goddess Isis to ensure the Nile's flooding and the land's prosperity. Some believe elements of these rituals were performed within the harem itself, away from public eyes, as private rites of renewal. But with time, the purpose of the harem shifted. Later dynasties turned it into a symbol of excess and corruption. Foreign envoys whispered tales of pharaohs drowning in pleasure while their empires crumbled. Inside the gilded chambers, lust and luxury blurred into decay. The women, once symbols of divine power, became pawns, trapped in endless competition for survival. Even archaeologists today have barely scratched the surface of what really went on behind those walls. Excavations at Medinet Habu and other palace sites show women's quarters separated by thick walls and guarded entrances. We found jewelry boxes, cosmetics, and delicate carvings showing women playing music or bathing. But the stories, the emotions, the rivalries, the betrayals remain buried beneath time. What makes the pharaoh's harem truly haunting isn't just what happened there. It's how little the world was ever allowed to know. The official scribes never wrote about the pharaoh's nights. The priests avoided mentioning the harem in temple inscriptions. To speak of it was to defy divine secrecy. Even the word harem is borrowed from later cultures. The Egyptians called it Perkener, the house of the women. But for those inside, it might have felt more like the house of the forgotten. Think about it. Behind every mighty pharaoh was a hidden empire of women whose names are lost, whose beauty was both their blessing and their curse. Some shaped history from the shadows, whispering into the ears of kings. Others vanished without a trace. And the harem, that shimmering labyrinth of silk and gold, became a symbol of how power, when mixed with desire, can both create and destroy empires. So next time you see the grand pyramids or the statues of the pharaohs, remember the real drama of ancient Egypt wasn't always written in stone. Sometimes it was whispered in candlelight, behind curtains of linen, where ambition, passion, danger danced together. History remembers the kings. But it's the secrets of their harems that remind us how fragile power truly is. If you made it this far, you've just walked through the forbidden chambers of the ancient world. Don't forget to subscribe to Throne of Scandals, because next, we're uncovering another mystery they tried to bury. What if the gods of Egypt weren't just worshipped, but feared? Stay tuned. The sands still have stories to tell.